Hey there, Weavers. Just a heads up, a little disclaimer before we get this one started. This next arc, but particularly this episode, focuses on the Undying Empire. And we will be building in character an Imperial city, meaning that we are the bad guys. So there are some content warnings coming up, most of them related to war crimes, oppression, undeath, murder, violence, and all sorts of things. It is done in a sort of goofy tongue in cheek way. But if that is not the kind of content you want to listen to, you might sit this one out. Thanks. Game Woven is now proudly part of the One Shot Network. Check out other great podcasts at oneshotpodcast.com.
In light of the various absentia and reassignments since handed down to my esteemed colleagues, the privileged responsibility of recounting the activities of the city planning department falls to me, Croc Chuckwalla, its first duly appointed Grand Chair. How well do I recall the fine day when we first set foot in the arena by which we would show the glory of the Undying Emperor, a pristine, untouched vista, unmarred by human hands, the canvas on which we would build imperial grandeur. From the quaint settlement of local savages to the lake teeming with life to be tamed by the good and faithful subjects of His August Majesty, the Undying Emperor, marred only by a few unsightly holes soon to be buried beneath the most fabulous imperial architecture, as I stood upon the hill that the Emperor himself, in his just and glorious wisdom, had ordained to be our home. Two things caught my eye: potential and a giant bird skeleton. Behind me stood the fine counselors appointed to aid me in realizing that potential for the glory of the Undying Emperor. There was Lupe Marshmallow, a ferocious man from a ferocious land with a ferocious appetite for the finer gifts that the Emperor has bestowed upon us, namely, the carousing and the spilling of the blood of those who would disturb the peace of vitality everlasting. Servitaris, my close personal friend, who to this day has a hand in keeping the great wheels of our extraction and industry a-turning for the glory of the Undying Emperor. Our parliamentarian and secretary, Administratix Third Class Levitus Bonaventure, whose handwriting was remarkably neat for one endlessly quavering in the face of progress. And finally, Clarissa Lafleur, who managed procurement of particulars. Now, I won't bore you with the procedural details of how we sorted out where the roads got put, or where the workers granted the opportunity to give glory to the Undying Emperor through their labors bunked down. But that big old bar right there on top of the hill, that was first proposed by Lupe Magmo. Dunn had to fight the Administratix Third Class for it too. See, they're the sort that works hard to play hard, excepting that playing hard is lining up a handful of beans into neat rows and pulling out the funny-shaped ones. My good friend Servitaris was next to make his proposition, namely, opening the excavations on the cliffside. And I do recall our discussions of bird archaeology fondly. And now, I know what you must be asking yourself. Grand Chair Counselor Chuckwalla, by the grace and glory of the Undying Emperor, how long do you intend to keep us in suspense? To that, I must reply, go birds. Now, were my fellow counselors always in possession of my insight, my vision, my adroitness in realizing the glory of the Undying Emperor? I must ask you to not count that against their favor, as they were not appointed to my city planning department without reason. But ratifying the approval for the construction of our Six Knives Stadium was my first great battle, and I must confess, even in light of the incredible innovations and the great works I have since performed for the glory of the Undying Emperor, I still to this day consider the construction of our stadium and the foundation of the Pratons to be my greatest accomplishment. once more, and say it with me now. Go Birds. Now, the big question, the most important question, the question that I have for all of you, what do we want the Prayton's team colors to be? When I say go Birds, what colors do y'all think of?
White and green.
White and green? White and green it is.
White and green. The color of the white bones of the giant bird overlooking the stadium and the green verdant fields of this beautiful plain.
Personally, I think it should match the colors of our nation's flag, which are
Purple and red, yes.
Oh, we're going to be stuck with this for a while.
red
Mhm.
and gold and black.
That was my school colors for most of my life.
Out of character, I'm imagining like blood red,
Yes.
and then like kind of like a slate purple, like a muted kind of purple, because they're all about projecting nobility and all that.
I think the colors for the team should be the colors of our country's flag, which is the red of blood, the purple of nobility, and the black of our enemy's despair.
I think that's a fine tribute to the glory of the Empire. However, the problem is 80% of Six Knives teams already use those colors for the same reasons.
That's, yeah. I was gonna say what you just described there. That's the Luxendale. I want to say that the first team that used them was the Luxendale Sandrakes, and then yeah, it's common enough. I think that we got this little bit of pop. Remember, the Emperor gifted us this land. This is ours. And if we find something, what better way to give the Undying Emperor glory than to find colors that'll tell us that we are in this place right here.
That's fine. Mostly I was doing that to make the color of the flag canon for future use.
I see. Fair enough.
Well, Councilperson Chuckwalla, would that be all for your project?
That's all I got. That's all I got for you today. I
All
appreciate you.
Well, yes, of course. I'm going to start my proposal with my changes to the road network. I'm going to be dismantling the road connecting these villagers to the lake, because my proposal is a perimeter wall around their current settlement. It's come to my understanding that they have some kind of connection to this skeleton. I believe it may be religious in nature as well. I simply worry that letting these people who may or may not be fully loyal citizens of the Empire, as they were here before we arrived, move about as they will, could lead to issues in the future. In my experience, it's much better to simply create a section for them and make sure that they do not go where they're not allowed.
Undying Emperor gave it to us, not to them.
Now, personally, I am all for creating ghettos at
I thought it too.
Yeah,
I
feel
thought
free to
that
veto
too.
this
Oh,
out of
my
character.
God.
Personally, all for it. Except if we what's it called? Seclude these people, we never get to integrate them into the great majesty that is the Empire. They stay alien and separate.
My thoughts exactly. Councilperson Magmala, why do we not simply subjugate these people?
Don't be ridiculous. As they die, they will become perfect members of the Empire as we raise them and bring them to the mines. I simply believe, with their religious, potentially, connection to this skeleton, that the risks that they will interfere with what the Emperor has mandated for us is too great. We can have them carry out menial tasks away from the cliff and make sure that they are slowly winded away.
Now, personally, while I do agree having army of undead to work on mine is great and good, I think there's value in having some warm bodies around to keep producing children to also in the future become undead who work in the mine.
Well, and also, cold bodies don't drink at the bar.
It is my understanding we would, of course, bring in already trusted and loyal citizens of the Empire and not rely on this unwashed rabble to be the
The-
base of our glorious new city.
The thing you forget is that all people are loyal citizens of the Empire, whether or not they know it yet. We should give them a chance to find their loyalty before we find it for them.
The idealism of youth, it is very nice to see.
Perhaps with your age and wisdom has come a disconnection from how people and times have changed. I agree that perhaps trying to include these people, let's show them how following the Emperor is better.
I will say to you this, they already worship a giant dead bird skeleton. It is not a big leap to worship of the Emperor. Should be a pretty easy connection to make. You like this giant dead bird? Well, here's the Emperor.
Giant dead gentleman, yeah. But I'd also now, of course, this is to refer back to a previous point that was, of course, one of yours, Sir Veritas. Vertaris, of course. At the end of the day, it's not our responsibility necessarily to determine what is to be done with populations that might have been here before us. Whether they are welcomed into the broader community that we are building here or not, it's not really our job to pick. And, you might say one thing and I might say another, and we all got our opinions, and I'm sure that's fine. But rule of this place has been conferred under the auspices of the Undying Emperor on our hitherto undecided count, who will be ruling this place, and they'll decide when they get there. Now, in the short term, what we are the city planning department. And regardless of what might be done with the people who'd already live here, I think that Bonaventure's got a solid point that maybe keeping the one road in order to plan our city so that these people are focused into areas where we definitely want them to be, and maybe to keep them a little bit away from areas that we might not want to be. Whatever happens to them in the future, I think that this is an excellent solution to a short-term project.
I'll tell you this. I am threatening to use a dispute, unless we at least make sure that there is appropriate gates and portcullises which the people in this town can use in order to enter and exit the area.
What better motivation to throw away the falsehoods of what they call gods or spirits or magical beings than seeing where you currently live and only one gate away, the glorious city which this council will create.
If they have free entry and exit, such that we can work on converting them the old-fashioned way, then I'm fine with the walls. Otherwise, if we're actually intending to trap them in there and starve them out, I'm afraid I must dispute.
I suppose watched entry and exit. Gates, but not left unattended.
I can be amenable to this.
Seconded.
I have no arguments.
In this case, I will not dispute. But thank you for your support.
Very well. A wall shall be built around this original settlement with entry and exits that will be manned at all times.
Now, here's a question. Since I threatened to use a dispute, but didn't actually use a dispute, is that a dispute?
No.
No.
Okay.
I see. I think that's just playing the politics, baby.
That's just me using leverage. Baby.
No, I think that's about the second most grim that we've gotten out of character. That's the second most grim that we've gotten. How we feeling?
Yeah, thank you for checking in because we are technically bad guys.
Yes.
And the Undying Empire is horrible and dehumanizing. So we just need to make sure that we don't accidentally cross a line.
Yeah, this is the part where we say, are we the baddies? And we're like, no, we are. Yeah,
we
sure.
actually are the baddies.
Absolutely.
If anything, we might have to say that at the top of the episode that we're the baddies.
Disclaimer, like, by the way, we're going to be talking about some pretty heinous shit.
Like, we're objectively doing crimes.
True.
Hell yeah. We're the bad guys.
Councilperson Lafleur.
We're evil.
And I did Google the strict definition of a ghetto to make sure I was right. We made a ghetto.
We made that.
We made a ghetto.
I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was trying to find an in-character way to propose the genocide of the people that was just like, what the fuck are people still doing here? Why haven't we wiped
I kind of feel like
yet?
that's what Rob's character kind of did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That is what Rob's character did there.
Right. As soon as that was proposed, a part of my brain was just like ready to jump to that spot immediately, just because like I don't know, like maybe it's tipping too much my hand to the bit, but this is like 1 part or 2 parts con man, 2 parts sports radio guy, and just bad politics.
I mean, where else are we going to get the targets for the Six Knives games?
An astute point. Councilwoman Lafleur, as our final act for this season, I'm interested to hear what you would like to propose.
Well, I believe there's something that every good city needs to have. Because everywhere you go, there's going to be misguided people who try and stand against the work of the Emperor and the great things that we are doing in his name. So some of that can be corrected through labor and being given a chance to work to build something. So, since some of those people will be put to working in the mines, I believe we should maybe make a bunkhouse or just a very secure place for them to sleep near the mines. A place where they're removed from the rest of society a bit, so where they're close to work, where they can better ponder the mistakes in their thinking.
A company town.
I was thinking more on the lines of a single building where their needs are provided for them, and put it on top of the other hole in the ground that is near the skeleton.
You know, I was about to propose the same thing. As we've mentioned before, what better way to seal off tunnels we don't want anybody using than to place some of our own architecture on top of it. And I want to say, I got another reason as to why that might be a great place to build this camp for the re-education of ne'er-do-wells. And that is, on a game day, be able to hear the roar of the crowd real good from the stadium, yeah? And so, what I say, we build ourselves a big wall makes it difficult to see the stadium, so they can hear it, but they can't actually see the game. And that way that they can know that because they made choices that put them into this camp, that made it so that they had to stay here and they can't go off and all it is working hard and no playing hard. And when they hear that crowd, you know what they'll probably think? Well, shucks, maybe it's time I changed my ways.
Can we set it up so that the central yard has the skull of the giant bird skeleton staring down upon them?
Ooh, that is fun. That's fun. We're getting back to fun. Ooh, hot dog.
I also proposed that this road that connects the area where the mines are to what is becoming the center of this city, move it so it doesn't pass quite as close to the prison, so people can still see it. They can still see, and the prisoners can see from a distance. But there won't be any chance for the prisoners to communicate with anyone outside of the prison.
Rudin, I will also say, would you be amenable to adding a function to this building? One important aspect of every Empire City is you have to determine where the corpses of citizens shall be turned. Of course, it is a glorious and wonderful thing, but it does create a stench. So having it off the center of the city is oftentimes advisable. And if that process is to maybe change ne'er-do-wells' minds, all the better, wouldn't you think?
Indeed. The first floor can be dedicated to the turning, while the higher floors are to keep the workers. So they get to pass the reminder regularly. Or do we want to be maybe less in their face, but it still haunts them and have it happen on the upper floors while they're working beneath it?
I like the upper floors. I knows the ground floor.
I would think making them ascend the stairs, seeing what will happen, do they not change their ways, would be quite effective. I mean, in this way as well, rebels and seditionists, they will all leave that place no matter what. It's simply under whose accord.
Might I make a suggestion that might sound extravagant, but potentially useful?
Fun?
It is your prerogative as a council person.
So, first floor, where prisoners live and are re-educated. Top floor is where people are converted. And the floor is made of glass so they can see the whole process from start to finish.
Ooh.
A glass ceiling. I've heard of such a thing.
Yes.
Except, yeah.
I do like this idea.
So they can never
Thoughts,
truly
ignorant
escape
Stratrix?
the punishment that might await them.
It sounds expensive.
Indeed.
That's why I said extravagant, but potentially useful.
At the end of the day, it is not my proposal, so it'd be up to Councilperson LaFleur as to whether my addendum would, first of all, be accepted into this proposal, and then if your further addendum is pertinent. If the councilperson would like to ask my opinion, that is certainly within her power.
I am curious to hear your thoughts.
Minimal funds should be spent on these mostly lost causes. There are citizens of this empire that have needs far greater than those who have strayed from the path. They will always make good thralls, if nothing else. That is my opinion.
Indeed. And from what I understand, those who are in the process of being turned don't think very much on themselves. It's like they lose themselves to animalistic nature for a while. So that would provide security, and they wouldn't have to assign as many guards to keeping an eye on the prisoners as they would have to survive passing through the thralls. Then we don't have to worry about incidents of guards getting a little too carried away.
Do I hear any disputes?
No, I'm good.
Indeed, it appears
No
Yes,
disputes for me, Counselor.
the project has been ratified.
Well, we've had a hard day's work.
6 months.
We've had a hard 6 months' work. It seemed to pass in only an hour. I say we recess for a few weeks and come back to the good work of building up this city. We now reconvene for the second half of the year. I hope everyone has been enjoying the bar and the new stadium. I do have reports that people have been, quote, getting mad drunk and getting lost in the bar basement and emerging in the bottom of the lake.
Those are false statements. Those are false reports.
Noted. They're liars. Understood.
Indeed, because the bar is there to make sure that can't happen.
The complications part does feel like we'll need to step out of character.
Yeah, probably.
I
Oh,
refuse.
I was throwing that in there just because it's a funny bit.
It is a funny bit.
I dispute your bit.
Bit disputed.
Bit disputed.
Muted, idiot.
Councilperson Magmallow, whom the etymology of your name I do not know, because I did not look it up over the break. We are ready to. The council is ready to hear your next proposal.
First of all, I propose everyone stop Googling my fucking name.
Whatever would someone do that? What is this? What's this Google?
We all know how to goog around here. We all know. We've all done a good goog here and there.
I've never googed in my life or on life.
So, actually, we're not ready to hear Magmallow's next proposal.
Oh, we're not?
So,
No.
when a round ends, all council members count to 3. On 3, everyone silently points toward the council member, types it in Discord, they believe has caused the most discord in the city this round.
So we'll do it the usual way, where we type names in chat.
Who do I think caused the most disc?
I would have brought it up. I thought it was at the year mark, but it's at the
No,
round
yeah,
mark. Okay,
okay.
cool. Alrighty, 3, 2, 1.
And get the whole name typed up because I was too busy trying to remember what the name was.
No, you're good. So that's for the listeners. 3 counts for myself, 1 count for Zad, and 1 for Ben.
Hey, all right.
So wait, hold on. We're voting for who caused the most disorder.
Discord.
Discord.
Oh, I thought my brain went disorder.
Now.
It's Discord as in who argued the most? Question mark.
Who muddied
made
the
everybody
waters the
mad?
most? Yeah, like,
Oh,
Who would have garnered the most contempt?
that's fair.
Oh, and Lex changes their vote to Rob.
Weird. So, now,
I
as
continue
person,
to be the odd one out who votes not what everyone else did.
in which case I changed my vote. No. So, if there was a tie, both individuals who tied would do this. But since I have the majority vote, I'm going to describe to my coworkers a complication that has occurred in the city as a result of what has or has not been built on the map. This is my chance to air your grievances, speak for your city's inhabitants, or tell an unfortunate truth. Write down your complication on one of your handy spare paper sheets. Told you they'd be useful, and place it in the middle of the table next to the map. Complications remain on the table until they are solved. One thing to note mechanics-wise. There's now a second way to dispute something that does not use your once per game. You can dispute it due to the complication. You can say complications might be hard to solve, but they're the spices that make your tenure on the city council so flavorful. More importantly, though, complications give you excuses to dispute buildings, even if you've used your dispute already. Whether or not you've used your dispute, you can still dispute any building on the basis that it will worsen an existing complication. This is called a complication dispute. If your dispute is seconded, the building is still built, but the complication gets worse. Since you noticed the problem, you have sharp eyes, you get to describe how it gets worse and rewrite the complication.
Okay.
Complications can be solved by one of the council members instead of making the building. So you basically up your whole building to fix whatever problem comes around.
All right, Rob.
Everyone good with that?
Fuck us up, buddy.
Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful couple weeks during the recess to sit and think about the progress that was made on our fair city over the past 6 months.
Tell you what, Administratix, I did my playing hard, and I'm back, and I'm ready to work hard.
I've spent time garnering considerable favor with the native population here. I believe they're coming around.
Do you?
Yes?
Is that so? Well,
Yes?
I'd love to know what you were really doing over the break, because the gate, which was so onerously placed on the wall, has been removed by some manner of explosion, and the cliffs currently have a large, let's call it, protest settlement on the top of the majority of the individuals who were inside the wall. They are demanding unfettered access to the skeleton and rights to land. We have a rebellion on our border. Council members?
We do have a place to put them.
So my complication is that a bunch of pissed off people who were like, wow, you just cut off our access to our religious idol, blew up the gate in the wall, and now have a settlement at the top of the cliff under the bird skeleton and are demanding unfettered access to it, and a settlement that doesn't have a wall around it.
Oh, I was asking if you drew a card or you just came up with
No,
that.
I
wasn't sure.
get to just come up with that.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was just curious.
Yeah.
And here I am thinking we don't actually have a place for any of the people moving into the city to live. We have to build housing.
Well, we do now because they've vacated their village, their walled village.
Safe place. It's got a big old wall.
Personally, I think this is because we built the wall, but what do I know?
We were going to have to build a wall eventually.
You gotta have a wall to build the city.
It is quite a problem, but they are now closer to the place that we put our problems.
I happen to know a thing or two about rebellions and putting them down, having put them down a few times. Yes, I'll admit they may potentially have been buttering me up to distract me so that they could do this little charade. But I can assure you this, there is a way to placate these folks and get a great deal of productivity and loyalty out of them. We just need to thread the needle.
And you're the one who has the brilliant idea of how to do this.
Yes.
Well, be that as it may, that will all come in due time. Councilperson Mac Malloy, wait with bated breath. Forgive the joke. I haven't breathed in hundreds of years.
Yes, we're all familiar with the joke. Everyone always has to do one. It seems like it's mandatory at council meetings.
Personally, I breathe, so
It
know what
has
you're talking
actually snuck its way into many charters, including this one.
Yes, I noticed that among a few other things, but continue.
The process of taking light items out of a charter is extremely difficult.
anyway. It is my turn for proposal, yes?
Of
Oh,
course.
yes.
Well, I think I will personally handle the complication that we've come across. My house, House Magmalo, could offer its soldiers as a sort of police force within the city.
And you would propose this in lieu of building up, recruiting from the local population, from pulling up some of our own guys.
Yes, it would save time. We know, as you are all know, Magmalo is known for its warriors.
Is it? That seems like a newly established fact.
Real quick, OOC.
Uh-huh.
How solving complications work. So you can ask the council if a complication is solved. You bring evidence, wit, brevity, bribes, and tacit threats, but mostly evidence and brevity, and make the most convincing argument you can. So basically, you feel free to establish whatever you want, say whatever you want, and then we will vote on whether or not it has been solved. And if we all say no, definitely not. If we all say yes, it's gone. If it's not unanimous, then you get to write down how the complication has changed. So there will still be a complication, but it will be a different one. So carry on. Just wanted to get the out of character.
Thank you for the clarification. House Magmalo is known for its incredible warriors. So I think providing our soldiers will be a great way to quell this rebellion in record time.
Now, given the what I can recall from my proposal on the wall, how would these soldiers be handling these rebellious?
Well, step one to quelling rebellion. First of all, break morale. So we will find their favorite person and make them not person anymore.
Yes, I meant simply, are we slaughtering them all? Are we slaughtering just enough of them to break their resolve?
Oh no, we're bringing them into the fold of the Empire. Be it by blade or barter, they will be part of the Empire. But first I offer blade.
Are you of the belief that the facility that Councilperson Lafleur constructed will be able to facilitate this quelling?
Oh, not at all. I think, personally, I think it's the waste of resources. Resources being human. Human resources is the joke here.
Yes, I'm very aware.
I'm funny.
It's another one that slips into the charters from time to time.
That's a very serious matter.
If we don't want to waste these resources, why not direct the anger towards something more productive, like work? That's why I had the facility, the bunkhouse, built. Place to keep the workers who need a reminder of what happens if they don't live up to the expectations that the Empire holds for them.
Well, there is another option, which is lie and trick them. See, I can have one group of soldiers come in, start being all rough and tumble and stabby. Then I have a second group of soldiers who are still my soldiers. Come and conveniently save the day. Maybe they fall in line once they have a friend around.
Kind of a good cop, great cop gambit. I like that one. That's fun. That's a fun one. Not one I'd heard before. I like this. I like this plan.
And as we know, all cops are buddies.
All cops are buddies. We say it all the time.
That is something I have never heard or will ever say for some reason.
Now
Just-
listen, Lupin, buddy. You know, you're coming from one part of the world. I'm familiar with your boys, but Bertaris, apparently not. You know, but we've got our ways, and like you said, it's not your first language that you're speaking here. We do say all the time, all cops are buddies. That's a fun one to pick up here. Hey, maybe you could use it. Maybe you could use it with your boys.
I think a crackdown is in order. Even just dismantling some of their leadership might be sufficient to bring the other ones to heel, put them to work, make them productive.
I think so. Once my men get their claws in them, I think it'll be all good.
Now, are these literal claws?
Of course, do you not know about the iconic claws of the Magmala clan?
No, I
You are
don't.
not quite as impressive as you think you are, and do you think a man can break their religious beliefs?
All religion can be broken.
This is a known fact. Yes, we've done it many times before. We can do it again.
And how long before they start thinking of that big old beautiful bird there? How long before they just start thinking about that as the mascot of the local team?
And what will this police force do once that problem's been dealt with?
I'm sure other problems will arise, and having a force of Magmala soldiers would be handy.
Well, I'll tell you what, I only really got one question to cap this off. You got my vote. I'm a yes all the way down. But I do have one question for you. Say, those boys of yours, they fans of Six Knives?
They are fans of whatever I told them to be fans of.
Well, that's good enough for me. I'm in.
How much is this going to cost to pay for their services? Will they be content staying here?
My soldiers do not ask for payment beyond the joy of serving the Emperor. They do what must be done.
It sounds to me as though all the relevant details are potentially spoken at this point. It will be now up to the rest of us for council people to determine whether we think this was a successful resolution of this particular complication. If we are all in agreement, it shall go away If we all do not believe it was sufficient, it will of course remain unchanged. If we are divided, the complication will remain, but of course, the Council of Marshmallow will change it in whichever way they believe makes the most sense.
We can just do text in chat, yeses or nos.
Yes for a resolved complication, no for unresolved.
Am I still voting in this? Okay, cool.
So this is, do we think this will fix it or not?
Yeah. And remember, even if there's anything other than unanimous, it just changes. Lex gets
Yes.
to change what it looks like. Yep.
On character, are you good if this doesn't work?
Oh, of course.
Cool.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
Oh, that was so close.
The council was almost unanimous in that it did not do anything. However, Councilperson Magmalo was, of course, resolved that it did. So, Councilperson Magmalo, will you please give us a report on the current situation after your intervention?
Shit. Hold on. Well, we have problem.
Not really.
It seems by introducing a new antagonistic force, they have all banded together and made an official militia and declaring their independence of the Empire. Anyway, time for all-out war.
Okay.
How fortuitous.
Sounds like more wasted resources, and you weren't as effective at breaking the spirit as you thought you would be.
I tried. If they will not bend, then they will break. The bones will be sharpened upon my soldiers' fangs.
Oh, they have fangs now, too. Claws and fangs.
Yes. Yes. Of course I do, after the surgery.
Oh, man.
There's a surgery!
Do you think they just have those?
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Game Woven. For this arc, we are starting with the game The City Planning Department, which was designed for the Wasaga Beach Game Jam in 2018 by Keelan Doyle-Myerscough, Andrew Tran, Alex Dawson, William Wu, Paul Geldart, and Raul Altosar. This game also features the voices of Robbie Rowling, TTBenjamin, Zadkiel Vaske-Huff, Lex Olden, and Brianna Jean. You can follow us on social media at GameWoven, support us at patreon.com/GameWoven, or over on the One Shot Podcast Network.